When I was a little girl, my dad would take me to the bar and order two Shirley Temples. I got all the cherries. I was so excited. But before we walked through the front door, my dad reminded me, don't tell mom. To a young child, a secret like that feels like a game. It's fun bond with your dad about sweet cherries. I didn't know adult storms were brewing. I didn't understand that words could cause a war. So I blurted it out the second I saw my mom. Yeah. But as I grew older, the secrets in my house stopped being a game. They became a heavy, exhausting currency. And I quickly learned that in a broken home, children carry two kinds of secrets. The ones they are forced to keep, and the deep, dark ones kept from them. My mom, she met another man. And this time I wasn't that obviously little girl with a cup full of cherries. This time I was explicitly told, do not tell your dad. It will hurt him. Think about that massive psychological weight of that moment. A 12-year-old child being handed the responsibility of protecting her father's heart and keeping her mother's betrayal in the dark. And that was the exact moment I developed a survival strategy that would carry me through the rest of my teenage years and deep into my adulthood. I realized that in my house, total transparency was dangerous. Information was ammunition. So I learned the art of the partial truth. I never lied. I told the truth, but only up to the exact point where it couldn't be weaponized against me. I carefully omitted whatever was necessary to avoid the fallout. If you omit the details, you minimize the rage. It was an exhausting game of mental chess. I had to play with my own mother, day in and day out, just to keep myself safe from the chaos. But silence didn't just look outward. It looked inward too. There were massive truths about my own life that were buried right beneath my feet. In the 6th grade, we started studying genetics and traits in science class. As I sat at my desk looking at the charts of dominant and recessive genes, the math didn't add up. The science didn't match the family I lived with. Sitting in an elementary school classroom, I figured out the secret on my own. The man I called my dad, the man who gave me pennies and piggyback rides, wasn't my biological father. No one sat down to explain it. Nobody held my hand. I had to carry that revelation in silence, too. And it didn't stop there. It wasn't until I was an early teenager that I finally found out the truth about why my body carried so much unexplainable anxiety. I was told the secret of what happened to me as a helpless toddler. The man who was supposed to marry into our family had severely, physically harmed me. A doctor had confirmed it back then. But the family chose silence over justice. Nothing was done. When you grow up surrounded by that kind of silence, you learn to do the only thing you can to survive. You sweep it all under the rug. I didn't just hide the truth from the outside world. I hid it from myself. Every time I was hurt, every time a boundary was shattered, I minimized it. I looked at the pain and told myself, it's nothing. It's not that bad. Because if I admitted how bad it actually was, I wouldn't have been able to keep standing. Pretending became my oxygen. But when you sweep your trauma under the rug, the floor doesn't actually get clean. The pile just gets bigger, and you spend your adult life constantly tripping over the very things you tried to convince yourself weren't there. If you spent years pretending your past was nothing, just to keep moving forward, I need you to know how many of us are finally ready to lift that rug up today. But this is where the heavy silence of my past meets the beautiful freedom of my faith. In a dysfunctional family, secrets are used to control, to shame, and to isolate. But Jesus operates in a completely different way. He says in Luke 12:2, "There is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known." When the world hides things, it does it to protect the darkness. But when God brings hidden things into the light, he doesn't do it to expose us to shame. He does it to break the power of the secret over our lives. Jesus was sitting right there in that sixth grade science class when my identity felt shaken. He was there when the truth of my childhood trauma was finally revealed to my teenage heart. Man keeps secrets from me, but God never. He whispered, "I know exactly who you are. You are mine." Our earthly families might have built walls of silence, but our Heavenly Father gives us a spirit of truth. You don't have to protect the dark anymore. You're allowed to put the burden down. Pamela Bates, host, and this is Journey in Faith. God bless.